If you're gay, great, fine, no problem. We totally have no issues with that at all. If you follow the podcast, you know my history, so I'm very comfortable with that. But I don't see people on Twitter in their profile saying part of the straight community. You don't see you understand what I'm saying?
It's like the reason that there's BET, right? Because black people needed a voice whenever that started in the 70s. Now, if you had WET, white entertainment television, now we get a problem.
It's just
and I agree with that. I don't think there should be a white entertainment television because they dominated media forever.
But I think that is more part of the division that's happening. That feeds into it. Now, don't get me wrong. I think I'm all about anybody that's very proud to be Mexican, proud to be Guatemalan, proud like Ricky's Michoacan. I love people that are proud of their heritage, proud to be, Middle Eastern, Jewish, whatever you are. I have a lot of respect for that. I think heritage and tradition's powerful. But from the standpoint of, because I am this, I'm more important than you. I need to be heard more than you. And, trying to convert the way it's being done today, I'm not with it. That data itself should concern every single parent in America. That data that Bill Maher showed, if you've not seen it, that data that Bill Maher showed, everybody who's a parent ought to be concerned about that data today.
Let me give you 2 quick points. What happens is people who are marginalized, let's say it's the black community or the gay community or the Jewish community, they start off saying, hey, we need a voice. Like, we're getting drowned out here. We're being marginalized. We're being discriminated against. Like, my dad, who grew up in Detroit, would tell me when he grew up in Detroit, it used to say signs, no blacks, no Jews, no dogs. Okay, straight up. That's what he grew up with in the 50s. All right, so you develop a voice. But then what happens is, once your voice becomes a little bit louder, let's say it's the LGBTQ community, let's say it's the BET community, now you become part of the mainstream. And now the mainstream says, all right, well, I'm not LGBT. What just happened here? Right. But because you start off as a small voice and you become part of the mainstream pop culture, now you're in the ecosystem of pop culture. The second part, because there's someone's probably watching, it's like, what does Catalina and AOC and political divisions have to do with LGBT? And the common thread there is whether it's nature versus nurture. And to the Bill Maher's point is that what essentially is happening is now the debate is over. This is no longer part of nature. It's now being part of nurture. Whereas 1% of people, baby boomers, were gay, and then 2% or 4% of Gen X, and then millennials, now it's 5%. Gen Z is now it's 10%, 20%. It's like, hold on. Clearly an indoctrination is happening. And that's essentially the common thread there.
My issue is that it's being pushed by these millennial young teachers at such a young age, and parents don't even have a voice sometimes, but also the fact that it's influencing legislation. If you have 0.01% of the population, or the statistic on transgenders, for example, and then now people are forced to have one bathroom or a transgender bathroom, it is influencing legislation on such a mass scale because it's being pushed by the far left so much that does impact the rest of the country. Why are these small voices dominating policy? You can't even get policies passed for veteran health care that quickly, but you can get transgender bathrooms pushed on a federal level in some cases. That's ridiculous to me.
So how do we solve it? So what's the solution? So if you're saying what you're saying, what is the solution?
Parents need to have a voice at the school level. They need to stop this at that level and say, teachers, your job is to teach my child math, social studies, gym, whatever, and to take your political culture war opinions out of the classroom. And then parents need to educate their kids on what's going on in a thoughtful way so that they're not it's part of the culture now.
So, okay, so parents...
run for school board.
But okay, so say you do that. What else is the solution, though? Tom, what is there really... So I guess this is the question I'm trying to ask. Is there really a solution, or is it in too deep? Have they already gotten so deep into universities and school systems that to be able to shift this is going to take a decade or two? And if you do, how do you do it?
Well, this is exactly the problem. You have... the far left that is influencing the kids because they want to tell the kids what to think. They do not want the children to be guided culturally by the parents. They feel that they should guide the children culturally. And they feel that people call it grooming, people call it whatever you want. That's the issue, and she's right. But this is good. This is a decade-long fight because it took a while to get here, and people are waking up to it. What happens is, Mark Twain said, the fog comes in on little cat feet. You don't really hear it, but the fog comes in. And what has happened here over the last 20 years, there has been a steady march toward the schools bringing in content that is increasingly left culture at the public school level. That's where they're driving it. In Dallas, two of the biggest private schools that you would say they are probably a tick conservative. They're not religious schools, but both of them have what's called the safe room, where you can go in and have a discussion about being gay, experimenting, gender confusion, which they don't call it confusion, and they will not tell your parents. Will not tell your parents. So your child, like this young woman, this 13-year-old you were talking about, confused for a year, could be sitting there constantly having these conversations in a safe room, and they don't tell the parents.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.